to another episode of Heavenly Threads of Heritage. I'm your host and guide, Jada Dixon, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Last week, we delved into the importance of voting as a vital expression of our faith and civic duty. We explored how scriptures like Romans 13th chapter, 1st to the 2nd verse, Genesis 1st chapter, the 27th verse, 2nd Timothy, 1st to the 7th, and Hebrews 11 and 1 guide us in using our voice to influence the direction of our nation. Today, we're building on that conversation by discussing how we can effectively prepare ourselves for the upcoming election, engage with the process, and inspire others, all while staying within the legal boundaries set by the Johnson Amendment. But before we dive into that conversation, before you grab that cozy drink that I always advise you to go get before we get started, I feel like it's necessary to remind our new listeners, uh, as well as our older listeners, our seasoned, if you will, listeners, of the purpose of this podcast. So bear with me for a moment. The podcast is dedicated to celebrating faith, heritage, and incredible contributions of Black Christian women throughout history through captivating stories, and engaging conversations. We amplify the voices of these remarkable women, providing insight into their unwavering faith, leadership in the church, and the profound impact they have on their communities. The mission is to honor and explore the Christian narratives of Black women, fostering a community of inspiration, connection, and empowerment through storytelling. Purpose: to amplify the voices and experiences of Black Christian women, provide a space for intergenerational and cross-cultural dialogue, inspire and empower individuals through diverse faith journeys, preserve and document these narratives for future generations, explore Christian topics and perspectives through the wisdom of Black Christian women. Our vision: to be a beacon of Christian inspiration, strengthening faith, recognition, appreciation, and representation of Black Christian women within the Christian community. And so this is the heart, the driving force for this podcast. And one would say, well, how does that fall into politics? How does that fall into um, our faith and our resilience and our galvanizing and community efforts and church efforts? Well, if you go back to episode 1, you'll see just how those things connect with one another. So now is the time that I'm going to pause and tell you to go ahead and grab your pen, your paper, your cozy drink. And on our next segment, we're going to go into our conversation. Stay tuned. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready? You know, I said to go back and listen to episode 1, but I'm going to give you a little recap of last week. But I still encourage you to go back and listen to season 3, episode 1, and actually season 1 and 2. So you can see the conversations that I have had the opportunity to speak with some really amazing Black Christian women to catch up. But for today, we talked about the significance of voting from a biblical perspective last week, emphasizing that our involvement in civic life is not separate from our faith. We reflected on scriptures that remind us of our God-given authority, the spirit of love, power, and self-discipline, that we've been given, and the importance of faith as the foundation of our actions. Today, we we're building on those insights by looking at practical ways to ensure our votes are informed and intentional. Just as Hebrews 11 and 1 reminds us that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, our vote is a tangible expression of our hopes for the future, grounded in faith and wisdom. And so I want to take a pause there just for a moment. Why is she connecting these things to scriptural um, or bringing about scriptural context? Well, in my walk and in my journey, I not only want to just read the word, I not only just want to quote the word, but I also want to apply it to my life. And so I try as much as possible because all have fallen. So by no way am I claiming to be perfect. I'm allowing God to shine through my imperfections. So as being the representation of God's living word, I believe in application, taking theory to application. And so sometimes we don't see the actual scripture that says you need to vote, but there is context, there is an overarching theme as it relates to community, as it relates to faith, as it relates to how we treat one another, how we show up for one another. We think about the first Christian community or church community, if you can see me, air quotes, in the book of Acts. And it really truly represents that second and great commandment of love thy neighbor as thyself. And so when we go in to the world, we understand our assignments or some of the assignments. I'm not in your business. It's between you and the Lord. But one thing I know to be true is that faith is important. A relationship with God is important. And understanding how that partnership with God, not to say that we're equal, but faith without works. We got to do some things. And so it really drives home. And so when I realized what was happening, the momentous occasion, I knew I had to be a part of it, no matter how small, medium, or large. It is something that God placed on my heart to do this podcast. And then it's an aha moment like, oh, here we are. So with that being said, let's continue the conversation. But I wanted to share that with you all. So now, not only is God in it, yes, our faith should be in it, absolutely. There's a civic duty that's wrapped up all up in there, right? But it's not just about going to vote. There's so many different layers and nuances that need to happen before you go to the poll. And you stand in line and take your pictures and put your paper, form, drop it, insert it, however it may be, you get your sticker and you go on about your business. Yes, I said business. You have to understand the issues, and not necessarily just your issues and your concerns, but the overall issue of how these things, these policies, these people will interact, involve, take away, harm, lie, plainly put, in not only local, state, but in the U.S. government. And so one of the most important steps we can take before casting our vote is understanding the issues as at stake. As Black Christian women, it's crucial to be informed about how the policies being proposed will impact our community, our families, and our nation as a whole. Take time to research the key issues being debated in the election. Look at them through the lens of your faith. Ask yourself, which policies align with biblical values of justice, compassion, and righteousness? How will these policies affect the most vulnerable among us? There's websites like Ballotpedia, Vote 411, and local newspapers can provide nonpartisan information about where the candidates stand on these issues. And I'm going to say a pause here. Do your due diligence. Do your due diligence, because there is misinformation, disinformation that can be posted, provided, spread via social media, including newspapers and all of that. Be diligent about finding the right, or not even the right information, the correct information. Because sometimes what is provided is a little sketchy. Beyond understanding my voice, beyond understanding the issues, it's important to know the candidates who are running for office. What are their track records? How have they demonstrated their commitment to justice, equity, and the well-being of all people? It's not just about what they say during the campaign, but about what they've done in the past. Proverbs 20:11 reminds us, even a child is known by his deeds, whether what he does is pure and right. In the same way, candidates are known by their actions, not just by their words. We can look at leaders like Kamala Harris, who made history as the first Black woman and South Asian woman to serve as vice president, as an example of someone whose career has been marked by a commitment to justice and equality. Research candidates at all levels, from local school boards to the presidency, to ensure they align with values you hold dear. Now, the Johnson Amendment and our voice in the church. It is something that I have been learning about, fine tuning by way of conversation with my pastor husband, babe, and as well as attending virtual opportunities to learn from other faith leaders, to learn from the Black Church in particular, and even the first ladies of the Black Church united in our faith. And so I really tried to understand the different nuances, as well as how do we get here. So at one point, we were the ones galvanizing the church. And when you think about civil rights and even segregation to a certain aspect, and somewhere down the lines, we have lost our voice, not as a whole, but I'm just speaking generally because I don't want to pinpoint any, churches, because you know how that could go. But we've kind of lost our voices for the fear of the government, the IRS, coming in and taking away 501c3 status. And so I've sat and listened to the Black Church PAC, as well as different events that were held by uh, some South Florida faith leaders, and then National African American faith leaders, as well as the First Ladies of United Faith across the U.S., just listening as to how we can use our voice and not feel stifled and not feel um, fearful, because God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of sound mind, love, and hope. I'm paraphrasing. So I'm about to get to go. I was saying, all thy ways, gain understanding. So we have to gain understanding, and we have to see where we are and how we can move in this manner. So let's address this crucial topic. The Johnson Amendment. This is a provision in the U.S. tax code that prohibits all 501c3 nonprofit organizations, including churches, from endorsing or opposing political candidates. Many of us in the faith community wonder how we can speak on important issues without risking church tax exempt status. The good news is that while the Johnson Amendment restricts churches from directly endorsing candidates, it does not prevent us from educating our congregations about the importance of voting, discussing issues from a biblical perspective, or encouraging civic engagement. We can host voter registration drives, distribute nonpartisan voter guides, and even invite candidates to speak, provided all candidates are given an equal opportunity. So if you're given the opportunity for each candidate and certain ones don't show up, document it and move forward. It's vital that we remember our roles as faith leaders and congregants is to advocate for justice, righteousness, and the well-being of our communities, all of which can be done without violating the Johnson Amendment. And to add to that, you may not directly pinpoint said politician's name, but you can bring about biblical perspective as it relates to their policies, how they treat their community, how they treat their family, how they uh, maneuver their role in politics for the benefit of the people and not themselves. So that's just a little taster. As we continue to move forward, this will definitely be a topic that I will include in each episode because I need us to get this. I need us to understand, and I as a collective, not me personally, um, we need you to get this. We need you to understand that your voice matters. And if you sit on the pew and then November 5th happens, but we're not gonna claim that, but just give you a hypothetical situation. You had the prime opportunity to get involved. You had the prime opportunity to make sure that the members of your church are registered, that they understand the issues, that they have researched the candidates, that they look at the track record, that they look at uh, the candidate's ability to not only be self-serving, but to be community serving. Okay? So now that we've had our recap, we talked about engaging by way of voting, by way of understanding the issues, by way of understanding the candidates. Are their words matching up with their actions? That type of thing. We're going to now go into the process. It's one thing to be informed, but it's another to be engaged. As Christians, we are called to be active participants in the world around us. James 2nd chapter 26 verse tells us, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." Let me read that again. James 2nd chapter 26 verse tells us, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." Our faith should compel us to take action. This week, I encourage you to engage with the election process in a new way, whether that means volunteering for a campaign, participating in a local debate, or simply discussing the election with friends and family. Let your voice be heard. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. When we do something that is out of our comfort zone, there is a moment where fear may try to creep in, but push forward. push forward through that fear. And then once you begin to do it, then you recognize, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. It wasn't as deep in the sense of the action, not the information, but the action of just getting out there. So start with your friends and family. Listen to this podcast. One of the things that I wanted to do with following and covering the elections from a biblical perspective is to, one, relearn some stuff I learned 20 plus years ago from high school by way of civics and history and so on and so forth, but then also make the connection. At the beginning of this episode, I explained to you how I want to apply God's word to my life. And so, how dare I not bring you along with me? We in this journey together. And so consider reaching out to organizations that align with your values and see how you can support those efforts. You might be able to phone bank. What's really cool, some of the things that I've seen is that there are some groups who are Zooming together while they are phone banking in their homes, or they're texting in their homes, but it's a way to connect across the US to say we're in this to win this. What needs to be done? Same thing with sending out postcards to different people that are on a list. There's ways to make it happen. Help register voters, seniors, our seasoned saints, our college students, if they are not able to go to their polling stations, absentee ballots, or even offer rides to the polls. And then I also want to stress this, because this has been something that everywhere I've gone, they have stressed this, to check your voting eligibility. And even if it says that you're registered, check it in a couple of weeks and then check it in a month. Last thing you want to do is get there on November 5th and try to vote. But there is an opportunity. Once again, we're learning this together. Provisional ballot. When you get there and they say that you're not on the roll, you can request a provisional ballot. And then you can still vote, and then things will be worked out on the back end, prayerfully, hopefully. And so there are ways that you can get involved. It doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be one or two things. It doesn't have to be something that is out of your wheelhouse. But I do encourage you to push yourself to do something. And even if it brings about a little fear, your voice needs to be heard. You're valued. You're important to the body of Christ and to the community. So, as Black Christian women, we have the power to inspire others to vote. In Genesis 1st chapter, 27th verse, we are reminded that we are made in the image of God, endowed with the ability to influence and lead. Use that influence to encourage others to exercise their civic duty. Talk to your friends, family, and community members about the importance of voting. Share with them the research you've done on the issues and the candidate. This right here, this podcast, I'm sharing what I've researched and listened to and the issues and the candidates with you all, with the hopes of sparking an opportunity for you to get involved. I am, if you ask me quite honestly about politics, I will run to the hills. But I had to take a different approach. And so now here we are. Encourage them to get registered if they haven't already. And once again, remind them the importance of their voice in shaping the future. And so now is the part in the episode where we talk about the resources and the opportunities to gain understanding. And before we go into those resources, I want to encourage you to tailor your activities and your Zoom hopping and the data that you are collecting to make your informed decision, as well as inform your families and friends, is to think about time, availability, and what feeds your spirit. Over the last few weeks, I've been Zoom hopping. And so there's like, I would say hundreds upon hundreds. I don't know about thousands, but there are hundreds upon hundred activities that are happening across the U.S., as well as PACs, as well as other special groups. You can't be in all places at all times trying to gain all the information, because what happens is you become so focused on that you're not actually putting those things to work. And so over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to use myself as an example. Over the past couple of weeks, I've kind of honed in and made my circle of understanding and gaining knowledge to really focus on the Christian community, but in particular the Black church. And so my resources for this week are a representation of that. This is not to slight any other organization or any party or anything of the sorts. It's just with all that is happening, the misinformation, the disinformation, the social media, I have to respect my space and my peace, come out, have a little rustle tussle, but in a way that is productive. All right. Excuse the cracking of my voice. It's early. So here's the first one. This is actually through the Black Church PAC, www.theblackchurchpac.org. And they have Win with the Black Church. This organization is dedicated to mobilizing Black churches to increase voter turnout and civic engagement. They provide resources and training and support to help congregations get involved in the electoral process. Learn how you can contribute and make a difference in this election. What I love about this pact is that they have their website as well as digital meetings, StreamYard, and they give you the information from different perspectives, but yet rooted in God and our call to speak against injustices. They also have and I'm a researcher by trade, by profession. Yeah, 10 plus years human subject research. Anyways, they have the stats. So you can check your whether you're eligible to vote. You can check who's using, or they can check, who's using their materials. And so when they speak out the numbers, when they speak out and see, where some things need to be tweaked or clarified, they can do so. So it's really well put together. And then they just have a good old time. This is what I mean by picking those resources that have a wide reach, but then also feed in to you, because it's a battle that we're fighting right now. And so you want to make sure that you have those in your corner who can worship as well as pray, as well as bring forth the word as it relates to how we're to operate. Think keeping that Johnson Amendment in your mind. And I would also add that through the Black Church PAC, because I am a First Lady, there's the First Ladies of United Faith that are doing some similar things connected to this pact. Next, Win with Black Women. They kicked it off. They kicked it off for raising funds and galvanizing and showing everyone how it's supposed to be done, and doing it as we've always done it as Black Christian women, or Black women as a whole. We see a hole, we fix it. We see a process that needs to be tweaked, we're there. We are the most educated. We are the most educated. It's not a slight to the brothers or our counterparts, our allies, but it's just stats. It's the numbers don't lie. But yet we tend to be the most disrespected by the world, the US as a whole. And so it's just interesting to see these women come together the way that they did, raise the funds, and it ignited a whole bunch of other win-withs. And so for Kamala Harris, for Vice President Kamala Harris. It ignited so many different groups. And I understand the reasoning behind it. You know, some people will say, well, we're all Americans and we're all this and we're all that, and it's just separation. And no, because certain people need to see that these groups are coming together and working for a common good. So Win with Black Women, they started about 4 years ago. I think they just celebrated their 4th anniversary with a small number. And I believe that first night, they had over 44,000 women. And these women are a part of an influential network that are working to ensure our voices are heard, our issues are addressed in every aspect of society, including the polls. So, winwithblackwomen.org. Can't forget our young girls, our young women. Black Girls Vote. This organization focuses on activating, engaging, and empowering Black women of all ages to use their voting power to create change. You can learn more about their mission and support their work at blackgirlsvote.com. What I love is that one of my sisters sent me information. She's heavily in politics up north. And I was like, oh, this is wonderful. And so it was something that my daughter and I can listen to together, listen and watch together. She's 11. I believe the youngest person on that call might have been 9 years old, and the oldest was possibly, they were seasoned. I'll say that, they were seasoned. And so what was so interesting is that in there, she got a chance to really see what Black women do and how they engage and how they speak with so much power and might, and using their unwavering faith to get things done. And so we had young ladies who were speaking and were not even eligible. They're not even 18, but they knew they wanted to use their voice for something. So how do they get involved? How do they engage? Then you have our college students, young ladies, creating local chapters of Black Girls Vote, or figuring out how they're going to use their voices on their college campus to make sure that their college body of students understand what's at stake. And I never forget, as we were listening, my daughter, she heard the young lady who is not eligible to vote, and she says, and she sat up and she's like, wait a minute, she sounds like she's my age. And so then that sparked a conversation between her and I. Like, if you ever have a chance to meet my daughter, she is laser focused. She loves to debate. She loves to pinpoint and have those difficult conversations. And she's 11. Now, I'll take a little bit of that credit, but, you know, Pastor Husband definitely has instilled that in her. But I'm pushing her along to say that you can Use your voice, have your voice, speak up. And so she was just really, really excited about that uh, webinar that was presented. So you have 3 different layers. You have the Black Church PAC, you have Win with Black Women, you have Black Girls Vote. They're all engaging and they're all moving in their different pockets and moving with not with a world view. I'll say it that way. They're moving with a world view. And so we're coming into spaces with different people and we're sharpening one another. And it's just a wonderful and beautiful thing to see. But then it's also encouraging. So I wanted to share those with you because these organizations are doing crucial work to uplift and empower our communities. If you feel led, I encourage you not only to get involved, but also consider making a donation to support their ongoing efforts. Your contributions can help amplify the impact of their work and ensure that our voices are heard loud and clear this election season. And so now I'll leave you with this. Your call to action. Pray. Pray, 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 pray. Connect, meditate with the Lord. But in addition to that, get involved. We need both. We need both. All right? And in your prayer, think about or discuss. I have conversations with the Lord all the time. But seek wisdom and guidance navigating this election. Seek discernment rooted in God's truth and his love. Lift up the organizations. I've given you 3. Think of if you have any others. Do that as well. Pray for blessings over their work. Ask that they move the hearts of the people so that we can bring about lasting change. This will help reflect God's justice, God's compassion. It will strengthen us to stand firm in our faith, to speak out for what is right, even in fear. Do it anyways, if it's in God's will. I have to put that out there because, some people will take it wrong. Well, the host of Heavenly Threads of Heritage, she said to speak out what is right that is in God's will and inspire others to do the same. Inspire others to do the same. Well, I appreciate you joining me today, and hopefully you'll come back next week so we can move forward in our gaining understanding as to how we are to show up as a representation and influence the people just as God had intended. Second and great commandment, to love thy neighbor as thyself. So if you out here doing anything otherwise, as I'll leave that there. Just do it the right way. Do it the right way and move forward and get involved. I thank you for your time. Be blessed. As we continue to weave this tapestry together, share your story. We want to hear from you. Share your testimonies of faith and resilience. You could be featured in an upcoming episode, inspiring others on their journey. Visit any one of our social media platforms to complete the form to submit your story. Connect with community. Join our community discussions and engage with others who, like you, are on a journey of faith. Your insights might be the inspiration someone else needs. Support the podcast. If you found inspiration in tonight's episode, consider supporting Heavenly Threads of Heritage. Your contribution helps us continue amplifying these powerful stories. As we close, remember that your story matters and your journey is a part of the rich tapestry weaving us together. Thank you for being a vital part of the Heavenly Threads of Heritage family. Until next time, may your faith be your guiding light, and may you find inspiration in the remarkable stories of these incredible women.